Hey ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the one, the only, the possibly a little stressed, but that's okay, we're going to work that stress out, Matthew Doucette. How are you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
I'm fantastic. We've already been talking for like 20 minutes as usual, so this is not like this has been cut and dry or anything like that. Matthew, you and your twin brother, now but I have to ask this, how twin is your twin brother?
Oh, identical.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, because my mom and my uncle are twins, but obviously, not identical. That would be strange. I started up XONA Games, which is an independent game company.
That's right.
How did, or before we ask how that managed to happen, and this will probably tie in, what was your life like before, from birth, life story? But no, what was everything like before, and then how did XONA get started?
So Jason and I started when we were in grade 2, programming computers. We were 7 years old, grade 2, programming computers. And programming video games, just learning from reference manuals and stuff like this. It was on a TI-99 4A. That would have been a competitor to a VIC-20, which predated the Commodore 64, etc.
All I'm thinking about right now is like calculators right now. That's
Yeah.
what you're to me. When you say TI, I don't think, oh, an actual computer.
Yeah.
I think, the thing I played Tetris on in calculus class. But
That's right.
That was an early age to be starting. That is quite impressive. What are you, like a savant or something? In grade 2, I was more worried about what I had in my lunchbox than I was about how well I could program a game.
Yeah, I guess we always designed things. I remember Jason and I designed transformers, our own, not like physically, but just like the tech specs, the personalities, whatever. We always designed things, and we were always very technical. So we liked computers, we liked science, space, and mathematics, everything to do with this. And once we started coding a computer, we just fell in love with coding. And back in the day, home computers like a TI-99 4A would boot up into a language, into TI Basic is what they called it. But they'd boot up, and it wouldn't do anything at all unless you programmed it.
It was just like a blink. Was it like the blinking square?
Yes.
Like just be like, what do I do? Tell me.
Like
Launch
the VIC-20.
Wolfenstein 3D is on DOS. No,
That's how the VIC-20 was like that. All
Yeah.
these other systems. So, and they would come with reference manuals, and then we had a bunch of books on how to program games. So we learned how to do it from that. And then we basically been making games ever since XONA Games. And XONA Games was our first attempt to do it professionally.
And what do you guys at XONA? What are your game specialty? Like everybody tends to have like a thing. Are you, as an indie developer, that could mean pretty much anything. There's genres in the indie development that don't even exist outside of that. So
Yeah,
what do
that's
you
right.
guys specialize in?
We specialize in retro. We actually call it intense retro games. So basically, retro aesthetics, retro gameplay. Let's say like more skill-based versus story-based. Like old school games were about score running, getting the high score, being skilled at the game.
Hotline Miami. Do you know that game?
No.
No? Okay.
Is that like an indie?
It's a top-down like shooter arcade style, old
Okay, I do know of it,
like
yeah.
8-bit kind of deal.
And it came out in like the last year or
Yeah,
so?
it's on Steam.
I
Yeah,
do
it's on
know it,
Steam.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like an acid trip fever dream to look
I was
at.
thinking back in the day. I was thinking, no, okay.
Yeah.
No, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, Geometry Wars. Like,
Geometry Wars is a good
like
one.
Like
yeah.
a score-based kind of
Exactly.
thing. Okay.
So
all
basically,
right.
retro games, and more specifically, so far we've only concentrated on shoot 'em up games, which Geometry Wars would kind of be. Anything with a spaceship, you're shooting down enemies. So.
Excellent. So now there's like an entire other section of that. Are you creating bullet hells, or are you just doing like not quite that level of shoot 'em up?
We are actually, you could say we're doing bullet hells.
Okay.
You could say that, technically speaking, they would probably be, I'm getting too detailed there, but technically speaking, they're not bullet hells. If someone truly, the purist would not call it a bullet hell.
It's not like an Ikaruga or something like that.
Right, it's actually to do with like the patterns of the bullets. We don't generate necessarily, like most there's a lot of technicalities to it,
sure.
details. But the purists wouldn't call it a bullet hell, but everybody else would.
It's going to call it a bullet hell? Okay,
yeah.
all right.
It's basically screen full of bullets you have to dodge. In that sense, yeah.
Right. So, but if you took it to Japan, they would look at it and go.
They might call it a manic shoot 'em up or something. I don't know.
That's like the warm up to something that's actually for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And what kind of what are some of the games? And now that you've said what you specialize in, like what are the games that you've actually made, and how successful have they been here in the North American market? And if you're doing that stuff. That's why I mentioned Japan. Mm-hmm. That's a big market for that kind of game, right? Like they love their score-based stuff.
They do. They do. They like the retro stuff too. Basically anything skill based. So we've done basically we've released probably 4 games, but basically there's a Decimation X series, so there's a few of those, and there's a Score Rush. You could call that a series maybe too, and there's like 2 of those. But anyway, so basically there's Decimation X and Score Rush. They're both shoot 'em ups. There's been 3 of them released on Xbox 360, and they rated #1 in Japan in user ratings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And that's what, I know, that's pretty amazing. And then at least for when they were released, they were #1 in sales too.
Wow.
So, and then once they all settled out, what happens when you release a game, your fans buy it first, and then the general public buys it next. So your ratings usually start off high and they slope down.
Yeah, of course.
And then once they settled, we held 3 of the top 5 spots in Japan.
Wow.
And we only released 3 games, so it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
they're a fickle bunch over there.
Yeah.
They are incredibly picky with their games. So that's actually quite an accomplishment, no question about it. Now, you have to imagine that if you are going to sit down and make one of these games, that you may or may not actually be a fairly competitive person yourself, and apparently you like doing some of this stuff on the side.
Yeah.
You know, you apparently have gone for maybe some speed running type stuff or some top scores here or there. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Let me think. I guess I've entered some Geometry Wars. I've entered a Geometry Wars tournament twice at PAX East. We were just talking about PAX East before. And last year I placed first. I actually won it, and then the year before I placed second. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. And then I have done some score runs, but I can't remember the times in the games right now, actually. I haven't done that too much.
No, not too much. I mean, that's becoming a bigger and bigger thing, speed runs, especially live streaming speed runs and stuff.
I used to do it before, like we were saying, before it was popular.
Of course, yeah,
I used to do it before it was popular. I used to speed run Super C, so it's like Super Contra, the second Contra on the NES.
Okay, yeah.
I used to speed run that all the time, and when someone came with a speed run, it sounds like bragging, but I actually had a faster run than the top guy.
Just not technically recorded.
Never recorded, so I can't take credit for it. And then, I tried to record it once, thinking I could beat him, and it's harder than it seems when the camera's running and you're trying to do it.
I do that for a living. I play games on camera for a living. Believe me, everything becomes infinitely harder when you're doing it. Even if you don't have like an actual audience, you know it's going to go out in front of an audience. And so you're sitting here going, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up.
Exactly.
Happens all the time. Happens all the time. So as a local independent developer, right, which there are actually a fair amount around here, surprisingly, there seems to be a decent contingent here for local development. What kind of experience have you had with that? What support have you had in particular starting something like that up, and how has that process been for you here in Nova Scotia?
The support has been great from the government. Basically NSBI and InnovaCorp, which is related, they're basically government-funded initiatives. They help us. They were contacting us, and we were almost ignoring them at first. Then NSBI kept bugging us enough that I finally started paying attention to them. I wasn't aware that the government was, because years before, like 10 years before I started XONA Games, I tried to start my own indie studio, and there was no help. There's no help to be found anywhere.
Right.
And then so from learning that, I was stuck in my roots with that. So anyway, NSBI actually has helped us go to the biggest things. They got us out to these conferences. See, I'm from Yarmouth, which is even more like, I don't know if Halifax is closed off, but Yarmouth is definitely like a closed off bubble.
I've got family that's in Digby. It's very similar. Yeah, it's very similar. You're in the middle of nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So with that, where was I going with that? With that, I never really even understood that I would connect to the outside world, because I thought, I haven't done anything yet. What does it even matter? And then when to go to these conferences, you have to explain what you want to get out of it. Who do you want to meet? And I thought, who would want to meet me? Who would want to meet me, right? So then I went. My first conference was actually MIGS, Montreal International Games Summit, in 2009, and we ended up meeting Valve. Talked about Steam, we met Nintendo and all these big companies, and we actually met the key guy with XBLA, and that's how which eventually landed an XBLA contract for us. But so it was, once we went one time, we realized we do connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was probably, even though there's financial support there too for us to go, the most valuable part of it all was just getting us to go to in the first place.
Right.
And as soon as we went, then we wanted to maintain it. Then we met our publishers and
snowballs from there.
Exactly, it snowballs from there. So I know I could almost twist this into like what advice would you give to someone new? And the advice is to be involved and get out.
Sure. Yeah.
Totally.
You know, Steam Greenlight has become a bigger and bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys considered, I don't know, you said you've met with Steam, have you guys considered trying to get in with something like that just to expand your market reach?
We still want to get onto Steam. We haven't done a Greenlight. We probably will.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just get into Steam anyway,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll do a Greenlight.
Mm-hmm.
And back when we were talking to Steam, it was actually really easy to get on this. I shouldn't say it was really easy, but it's way easier than it is now.
Right,
So,
yeah.
and relatively speaking, it was really easy. And we didn't take advantage of it at the time, which is just...
It's one of those hindsight is 2020
It's
kind
probably
of
the biggest mistake we've ever made,
Yeah.
I would say.
Well, Steam's a little bit of a platform. You know, it's fairly large. It might be one of the biggest, you know, bandwidth users ever on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I hope you're doing, you know, really well with that stuff in the future. But by all means, what can people do to come and find you and find out more about XONA games? Where can they go to keep up with your stuff?
The easiest way is XONA.com, XONA.com. I don't know if you can
Right
see
there.
that
Oh,
there.
shameless advertisement. I love it. It's my specialty is shamelessly advertising
Yeah.
things. Absolutely.
So
Great.
XONA.com, and then from there they can hook up with us like through Facebook, Twitter, all the other ways. They can email us from there, everything. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
And tell them one more time the names of these games that they need to go and try and put scores up on. They're available on Xbox Live Arcade.
okay,
Right
or the names?
Yes.
Score Rush and Decimation. Try Decimation X3.
oh, okay. So
The third one.
it's X3. It's not 13.
Yeah.
It's X3.
Yeah, that's
okay,
right, yeah.
all right. Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure because some people will be like, oh, I don't know about that. Well, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All the best.
Appreciate it.
It's fantastic what you've done. Hopefully, you do better stuff in the future and continue to be awesome for all of us Nova Scotians. That's going to be it, guys. All right, that's going to be it from us here at the Game Code for this week. Big thanks goes out to Matthew Doucette for joining us here in studio. That was a really informative interview, and hopefully you guys got something out of it at home. As always, please let us know what you think of the show on Facebook and or Twitter. And until next time, I'm your host, Adam Morehouse. Have a good one.